To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
So my dear children, in the earlier chapter, we finished up all the theoretical parts related to the natural disasters that's going to occur to our Sri Lanka. So mainly we discussed about the droughts, then landslides, about the floods, and finally about the lightning hazards, right? Now we are going to discuss within this part about a small summary related to the each and every natural disaster that we discussed in the earlier lesson parts, okay, in the earlier chapters. So within this table, you can observe the disasters and the reasons for their occurrence, right? Main reasons for their occurrence. So here it is given the first and foremost disaster, that is the drought. So you know that, my dear children, droughts are mainly occurring because of lack of rainfall, right? Because of lack of rainfall, droughts are mainly going to occur. So because of the accelerated evaporation and transpiration, right? You know that during drought season, we receive heavy amount of sunlight, and also the dry air currents that is going around the environment is going to increase the rate of transpiration in plants. So upon that, my dear children, I told you that the water contained within the surface and also the water which is contained within the ground is going to reduce because of this condition. So the rate of transpiration will directly impact in reduction of groundwater and also the surface water of several water resources. And also, my dear children, because of having extreme temperature and because of receiving plenty of sunlight, plus with dry winds, the rate of evaporation of water is also going to increase from water sources. So because of these reasons, water or the lack of water or scarcity of water will occur. So it's going to conduct, or it's going to cause a drought, okay? So here the first and foremost point which is given here, accelerated evaporation and the transpiration is going to cause drought, right? Accelerated evaporation and transpiration is going to cause drought. Then the next one, deforestation and burning forests. So deforestation, when you take plants and trees are highly giving a very high impact, or they are highly impacted on the water cycle. So therefore, upon deforestation and cutting off these trees, these things or these incidents will directly give a huge effect on the water cycle. So upon changing these factors essential for the water cycle, my dear children, the water cycle is getting affected, and because of that, right, and because of that, the annual or the timely rainfall will not be received for a particular area. So that might lead to a drought, okay, that might lead to a drought. So deforestation and cutting down trees, okay, will finally lead to a drought because of the reduction or because of the scarcity of water. Then the next one, human activities like, so my dear children, there is a mistake, small bit of a mistake in your textbook. This one should be not air pollution, it should be air pollution, right? Air. So human activities like air pollution, global warming due to climatic changes. So there are several other human activities as well, like air pollution. Okay, so because of air pollution, we won't be receiving enough rainfall, and also we won't be receiving, right, enough monsoonal winds because of the air pollution. And also air pollution is going to help, right, for the global warming as well. So my dear children, human activities like air pollution and global warming, right, these things are also going to help in climatic changes, right, in climatic changes. So upon having climatic changes, my dear children, what will happen? A certain area will not receive enough rainfall within a certain time period. So that will lead to a drought. That will definitely lead to a drought. Okay. So these are the reasons in causing drought. So main reason behind a drought condition is scarcity of water. So there can be plenty of reasons for the scarcity of water. So these are those. Here, accelerated evaporation and transpiration of water will cause scarcity of water. Deforestation and burning of forest definitely will cause scarcity of water or lack of water. Human activities like air pollution and global warming definitely going to change the climate. Okay. So these climate changes, it's going to create scarcity of water. So this scarcity of water or lack of water is the main reason for climatic changes, my dear children, right? So these climatic changes will definitely create what? Droughts. Okay. So each and every climatic change finally going to create a drought. Okay. Not almost all the climatic changes, some other climatic changes may do other different scenarios as well. But however, in here, when these incidents are going to occur, upon these incidents, my dear children, climatic changes may occur, and those climatic changes will result in drought. Okay, right then. So always remember, main reason for a drought is scarcity or lack of water. So this lack of water can happen or it can occur according to many ways. So these are that ways. Okay. Then the next one, landslides. So the main reason for landslide, as we discussed when we are discussing about the landslide thing, we discussed that the main reason behind landslide is heavy rain. Upon having a heavy rain, right, water is going to soak in between two different soil layers, and the topmost soil layer is going to slide past. So the sliding past procedure is going to occur because of soaking water into the layers of soil. So this water soaking process is going to happen because of high amount of rainfall. So heavy rain is a main reason for landslides. Then, my dear children, nature of rocks that the mountains are made of. So we discussed about the bedrock thing, right? Bedrock means the layer after the soil. So if the soil layer and the bedrock do not have a good bond, then, my dear children, there is a risk of getting landslides more often, because the soil layer will definitely, right, come down upon soaking water, because the bond between bedrock and the soil layer is not that much enough. So according to the nature of bedrock, right, the bond is going to depend. According to the bond, my dear children, the slippage, right, or the slipperiness is going to change, right? Then the next one, irregular human activities like irregular land filling, irregular constructions, irregular agricultural lands, right, which are located in hill country. These things also result in landslides, because you know that, okay, we discussed that sometimes, my dear children, forests or plants or different other kinds of trees are pretty much important to keep the soil together or to hold the soil together. When removing these plants and trees, my dear children, what will happen? The bond between two different soil layers is going to reduce. Okay, because as we are removing all the roots and all the other stuff which are buried under the soil upon deforestation and upon removing trees, right, we are going to remove the bond between the two layers of the soil. So in that case also, landslides may occur, right? So my dear children, irregular constructions, cutting down of trees and plants, then irregular agricultural lands are also going to help for the occurrence of landslides. Okay, so these are the reasons behind the occurrence of landslides. Then the third one, floods. Once again, heavy rain is a main reason. You know that floods can be in two types, instantaneous flood, okay, instantaneous flood, and the second one is floods due to overflow. So mainly here we are referring about the floods due to overflow. Sometimes instantaneous floods also can be taken. So you know that instantaneous floods are the type of flood that's going to occur because of improper drainage systems, right? Mostly in urban areas. Mostly in urban areas, due to having improper drainage systems, when there is going to be heavy rain, right, drainage systems will overflow and certain area of a city will get drowned. So this condition is called instantaneous flood. Then the second one is the overflows, right? Overflows or river water overflowing. In that case, my dear children, low lands around the rivers or low land around the reservoirs will going to drown. Okay, so that kind of condition is called flood due to overflow. No matter overflow flooding or else instantaneous flooding, both the cases are mainly going to occur because of heavy rainfall, right? Because of heavy rainfall. Then the next one given, influence of tides and stormy waves. Influence of tides and stormy waves. Right now, stormy waves, that means my dear children, if you take cyclones, right? Cyclones are mainly occurring because of the, right? Stormy waves are occurring because of the cyclones, right? Low pressure conditions within the ocean. Because of that, stormy waves are going to occur. With stormy waves, my dear children, rain and heavy winds are going to come. So that kind of a particular incident is the one which is referred as a cyclone. Okay, so stormy waves and the influence of tides also may cause floods. Okay, tidal waves are also going to help in creation of floods. I can give you a simple example. If you take the city Venice, which is located in Italy, at a certain time period, because of the high tide, the entire road system, right, entire road system is going to covered with water because of the high tide. Okay, so it can be considered as a flood. After high tide is going to pass by, once again the roads will appear. So during that time period, the people around Venice, they use boats in order to navigate here and there. They can't use roads. Okay, right? So it can be considered as an instantaneous flood. So flood can also occur, my dear children, because of the tidal waves. Then irregular human activities. Once again, my dear children, like in the earlier case, for this thing, for the floods also, irregular human activities are going to play a huge role, right? It's going to play a huge role. Irregular land filling, irregular constructions, right? These things will definitely create floods but in rainy season, my dear children, right? Irregular land filling and irregular constructions will definitely create floods in rainy season, right? So these are human activities. We discussed several things regarding to irregular land filling and irregular constructions. So I hope that you have the knowledge about those things as well. So I'm not going to explain those things once more. Then the final natural disaster that we discussed, which is lightning and thundering. So lightning and thundering mainly occurs because of shifting or discharging of electrical charges to the earth from the clouds. That is the main reason. So this shifting process or discharging process is going to occur because of creation of static electrical charges within the clouds. These static electrical charges mainly going to occur within the clouds because these particles are going to rub each other upon high winds, right? So these particles can be water droplets or else ice crystals, or sometimes two different clouds as well. However, static electrical charges are the main reason for the creation of lightning, right? Static electrical charges are created because of rubbing, right? Because of rubbing or because of contact of particles. Then we discussed about several precautions that we can take in order to avoid the hazardous conditions related to lightning. And we discussed several things related to the lightning process during the previous chapter, right? So as we are mentioning about the reasons only in here, so this is the first and foremost, or this is the main reason in occurrence of a lightning hazard, because of shifting or discharging electrical charges to the earth from clouds. Actually, this thing is also referred as earth lightning. Earth lightning, from a cloud to earth, passing of electrical discharges. So these are the four main natural disasters that we have discussed within this lesson part, my dear children. Within this lesson part, these are the four main natural disasters that we have discussed. So we have mainly discussed about the droughts, and we discussed that droughts are mainly occurring because of the scarcity of water or lack of water. So these cases like accelerated evaporation and transpiration, deforestation and burning of forest, human activities like air pollution, global warming, and due to like climatic changes, right? Scarcity of water will occur within a certain area. So due to that scarcity of water, my dear children, what will happen? Finally, it will lead to a drought, right? Finally, it will lead to a drought. Then we discussed about the landslides. We discussed that heavy rain is the main effect, or heavy rain is the main reason for landslides. So upon heavy rain, my dear children, water will soak in between soil layers, passing one soil layer or sliding one soil layer down. Okay, so this passing or this movement of soil layers is referred as a landslide. So nature of the rocks that mountains are made of is also going to help, right? If the nature or if the bond between these rocks and the soil is weaker, then there is a high potential in creation of landslides. Then, my dear children, irregular human activities are also going to cause these landslides, like irregular constructions, irregular agricultural lands, and so on. Then we discussed about the floods, my dear children. Flood is also a natural disaster that is going to occur mainly because of the heavy rain. Then influence of the tides and stormy waves like cyclones can also create these floods. Then after that, like in the previous, irregular constructions, irregular land filling, and irregular human activities can lead to floods as well. Okay. Then, my dear children, about the lightning. So lightning is mainly occurring because of the electrical discharges that is going to come towards the earth from clouds. Clouds generate these electrical charges, these static electrical charges, upon rubbing particles inside it. So these particles can be ice crystals or water droplets or sometimes two clouds. Okay. So the discharge of these electrical charges towards the ground from a cloud is referred as earth lightning. So the most dangerous or the most lethal condition is earth lightning. So upon earth lightning, my dear children, what will happen? Several severe conditions may occur with loss of lives. Okay. So these are the main reasons in creating each of these natural disasters, my dear children. And finally, you are given with that point. Damages caused by natural disasters can be minimized by acting in accordance with the instructions published over the media by relevant authorities. Now, meteorological department, they are the ones who are going to provide several information related to certain weather. If you take a certain area, right, the weather conditions of that particular area is going to provide, or these information are being provided for you guys through the meteorological department. So it's very important to listen these weather reports day by day. By that way, my dear children, you can get a certain idea about the tomorrow. Whether it is going to rain, whether it is going to be a sunny day, and so on. So when you are doing your day-to-day activities, it's going to be very helpful for you guys to organize your day-to-day works. And as well as, my dear children, when the rainy season is going to come, by looking at those weather reports, you can decide or you can come into a conclusion during like which kind of a time period, right? During which kind of a time period there is a high risk in getting a flood. During which kind of a time period there is a high risk in getting a drought season. So like that way, you can get different ideas about different natural disasters by collecting or by looking at or by listening to this information given out by the meteorological department. So it's really important to listen to your authorities, especially for the weather report given out by the meteorological department. Okay. So other than that, my dear children, if you take a cyclonic condition, those things will be definitely, right, those information will be definitely given out in the weather condition, right, or in the weather report. So it's pretty much important to listen to these authorities and to manage these natural disasters which is going to occur in our Sri Lanka. Okay. So my dear children, with that part, now we have came to the end of our lesson. So it's time to discuss a summary related to the lesson. So you are given with a summary finally. Droughts, floods, landslides and lightning hazards are some of the natural disasters that Sri Lanka faces. So we discussed these things several times. Okay. So these four main things, or these four main natural disasters are the main natural disasters that we have discussed within this lesson, right? So these main four natural disasters, my dear children, are faced by Sri Lanka. Okay. Then natural reasons as well as human activities influence the occurrence of droughts, floods, and landslides. If you take droughts, floods, and landslides, there are natural reasons for the occurrence, and as well as there are human activities for the occurrence of these natural disasters. Okay. So, my dear children, it's important to minimize those human activities that are going to cause these natural disasters. It's important to minimize those human activities. That's why we are going to identify these things. We are identifying so that we can minimize in our future. Okay. So it's very important to identify these things, identify these human activities, and to minimize these things in our future in order to survive in our biosphere. Otherwise, my dear children, these conditions may get somewhat terrible in the future, right? So therefore, it's very important to minimize these conditions or these activities and to face off these natural disasters quite well, right? And how to manage these things, right? So remember, most of the times, my dear children, most of the times, other than the natural reasons, human activities are the main reasons in occurrence of these things. Okay, human activities are the main reason for the occurrence of these natural disasters, right? Not natural reasons. Actually, if you take natural reasons, some of the natural reasons are also going to occur because of these human activities mainly. If you take the El Nino effect, I told you that the uneven distribution of temperature around the surface of the earth is going to happen mainly because of changing environmental temperature or because of the global warming. So global warming is a direct result of human activities. Okay, right? So my dear children, there are some natural effects which are given out because of the human activities. Right then, though natural disasters are unavoidable, the harm caused by them can be minimized by taking necessary measures for the readiness, mitigation, and adaptation. Now the next thing is, my dear children, by being ready for the particular natural disaster and by mitigating the hazardous events or by mitigating the disastrous things, right? And also by adaptation for the disaster, we can manage the bad outcomes of the natural disaster. Up to a certain level, we can manage. Okay. So these things are unavoidable. These natural disasters are unavoidable, my dear children. Means that we can't stop these things. No matter how much we try, we can't stop these things. There's no possible way to stop. But however, we can manage the damage up to a certain level by mitigation, by readiness, and by adaptation. Okay. Now here, the final one. Adaptations make people to live with some disasters for a long period of time. Now, adaptation means, my dear children, here we are going to live with the disaster, right? We are adapting to the new conditions. We are adapting to the disaster and we are living in with the disaster. Okay, even though the hazardous conditions are there, we are going to live with these hazardous conditions. This is what do you mean by the adaptation. So by the adaptation, my dear children, what we can do is we can live with the disaster for a long period of time. Okay, so these are the things that we discussed under the lesson part, my dear children. Okay, right. So I hope that you got a good knowledge about the lesson part. Right, my dear children. So these are the things that we learned under the lesson part regarding to the natural disasters. Okay, so now it's time to discuss several questions regarding to the natural disasters. So like in the previous lessons, my dear children, we are going to start with the questions given in your textbook. Okay, so let's head on to see what are the questions given in your textbook. Right, the first question. So as usual, you are being asked to select the correct answer, right? So these two questions are MCQ type questions. So let's see. Which of the following is not a human activity that affects the change of rainfall pattern? The question is asking, my dear children, which is not a human activity. Destruction of forest. Destruction for us is correct, right? It's a human activity, right? It's a human activity. Destruction of forest, mainly people are going to destroy the forest, right? Then next one, destruction of forest cover, the same thing, right? Same thing. It is also correct. Irregular soil management, once again correct, no? During agriculture and during constructions, my dear children, we use soil improperly. Okay, so therefore it will lead to irregular soil management. Then the final one, El Nino phenomenon. So El Nino phenomenon is the one, or is the correct answer for this thing, because under the droughts we discussed that El Nino phenomenon mainly occurs upon increase in the temperature in Pacific Ocean, in the surface water of the Pacific Ocean. So it's a natural cause, right? Even though there are human influencers, these human influencers are not direct linked, they do not show a direct link with the El Nino effect. So therefore we can consider that the El Nino effect is a natural phenomenon. Okay, so El Nino effect would be our answer. This is the answer. So this is the one which is not a human activity. Okay, all of these things are human activities. Okay, then the next one, when is the cause of health problems that arise due to droughts? Okay, so you need to find out you need to get health problems. Okay, health problems that arise due to drought. Health problems that arise due to droughts. Scarcity of water, pollution of water sources, reduction of food supply, all of the above. So what are the things that is going to cause health problems because of the drought? Health problems, my dear children, scarcity of water, of course they are going to create several health problems, because I told you that upon reduction of water, people would find other alternative sources. So when people are going to drink from those alternative sources, different infections may occur. And upon not having enough water for the body, sometimes dehydration may occur. Sometimes other problems like kidney related diseases may occur. So therefore several or severe health conditions are going to create because of scarcity of water. Okay, so it is a main reason in creation of health problems, right? Then the next one, reduction of food supply, once again correct. I told you that upon having less amount of water, agricultural lands will be affected. So when agricultural lands are getting affected, what will happen? Definitely, my dear children, right? Definitely, what will happen? The harvest which is being obtained from a certain paddy field or from a certain type of an agricultural land is going to reduce. So upon the reduction of harvest, what will happen? The amount of food is also going to reduce. Upon reduction of amount of food, sometimes children may starve. People may starve because there is no food within the certain environment or within the certain area. Okay, so that is going to create severe health conditions. So this is also correct, my dear children. Then the next one, pollution of water sources. This is also correct. Water sources are also going to pollute, right? Because of reduction of water, mud is going to collect and all the other substances are going to collect on different sources, and these sources are going to pollute because of collection of several other components. So it is correct. So my dear children, all of these things will create health problems because of droughts. Okay, so all are correct. All are correct. So this should be our answer. Right, then we'll move on to the next question. So the second question, answer the following questions briefly. Drought is one of the natural disasters that affect Sri Lanka. Mention 3 factors that contribute directly for the drought. Right. So we know that drought is mainly occurring due to scarcity of water. Right? Due to lack of water. So the question is asking, you need to write down 3 factors that contribute directly for the drought. So you have to write down 3 factors that is going to cause scarcity of water. Okay. What are the factors that is going to reduce the amount of water in the soil or in our surface? So if you can write those 3, then your answers are correct. So what are the reasons or what are the things that is going to reduce the amount of water, right? That is going to reduce the amount of water, that is going to reduce the amount of surface water in our environment. Number 1 is excessive transpiration, right? Excessive transpiration. Then dry air currents or dry winds. Then my dear children, not receiving enough rainfall. Not receiving enough rainfall. Okay. Then wastage of water. Wastage of water. So these are the main reasons that's going to reduce or that's going to create a condition of lack of water, right? So we'll write down the answers. Number 1, wastage of water, right? Wastage of water. Number 2, lack of rainfall. Lack of rainfall. Number 3, dry air or dry wind, dry winds, right? So these are main reasons in creating lack of water, right, or lack of or scarcity of water. So because of scarcity of water, my dear children, we know that droughts are going to occur, right? Other than these things, my dear children, if you take the high transpiration rate and high accelerated absorption of water from the roots of the plants, these are also going to help for the creation of a drought. Okay, and there are other several human activities as well. Okay, so here you are being asked to write down only 3, no? So I have mentioned 3. Then the next one. Drought affects adversely for the generation of energy in Sri Lanka. Do you agree with the above idea? Describe reasons for your answer. Drought affects adversely for the generation of energy in Sri Lanka. Do you agree? If I am you, then I'm going to agree with this statement for 100% sure. So I have explained about the reason, right? In the earlier chapters, we discussed, when we are discussing about the droughts, my dear children, we discussed that Sri Lanka is a country that's heavily dependent on hydropower. Okay, so when there is a drought, my dear children, water sources or water reservoirs are going to dry up. So upon drying up of water reservoirs, we won't be able to create or generate enough amount of electricity, because you know that in order to create electricity, my dear children, okay, in order to create electricity, the water should be at a very high level so that it would contain more potential energy, and also the amount of water which is at that level should also be increased. So if a drought season is going to come, the amount of water which is going to be placed within that area is going to reduce. So therefore, we won't be able to create enough amount of energy or enough amount of electricity. Okay. So if enough amount of electricity is not getting produced, then my dear children, droughts are causing, right? Droughts are going to cause energy crisis in Sri Lanka. So I'm going to agree with this statement 100%. So first of all, I can write the answer as yes. You have to mention it as yes, right? Do you agree? Yes. Then what is the reason? Because water sources are going to dry up because of drought. Therefore, it's difficult to use hydropower electricity. It's difficult to use hydropower to generate electricity. Right? So this should be our answer. So drought affects adversely for the generation of energy in Sri Lanka. So the first question which is being asked, do you agree with this statement? Of course, yes. Because water sources are going to dry up because of drought. Therefore, it's difficult to use hydropower to generate electricity. So to generate electricity, we are using hydropower. If water sources are going to dry up, then we won't be able to use these we won't be able to use this hydropower electricity, or then we won't be able to use hydropower for the generation of electricity. Okay, so therefore, my dear children, we won't be able to use hydropower electricity, as Sri Lanka is highly dependent on hydropower electricity. Definitely, what will happen for the generation of electric energy in Sri Lanka? Of course, the drought is going to create a big impact. Okay, right then. Then the next one, suggest 3 measures to be taken now to face the drought conditions that may occur in future. Now, sometimes drought conditions may occur in future, my dear children. Not now, but in future. So if a drought season comes in the near future, what are the things or what are the ways that we can use to mitigate these things? So you need to write down these things, right? You need to write down 3 ways in order to mitigate the conditions that is created because of droughts. But however, imagine that the drought is coming in near future. Okay, if a drought is coming in near future, what are the things that you can follow in order to mitigate the consequences of these droughts? Right. So you have to suggest 3 measures that can be taken to face the drought conditions that may occur in future. Number 1, let's imagine that this is the rain season. So after that, the drought season is going to come. So within this rainy season, my dear children, we must collect as much as water we can. So first and foremost thing to do is collect as much as rainwater you can, my dear children. Now, if we know a drought season is going to come in the near future, then we should be able to, right, face that condition successfully. So in order to face that condition, we need to have water. So during rainy season, we can collect water. We can collect rainwater, right? So first and foremost thing is to collect rainwater. Right? Collect rainwater as much as we can. Then number 2. Number 2 is, my dear children, minimizing the wastage of water. Now, for now, you have a certain amount of water. Let's imagine, now I told you that we are imagining that we are at the now we are at the rainy season. So at this time period, if we are going to waste water, then you won't be having enough content of water within the near future, right? So in order to have enough water within the future, my dear children, you have to conserve water which has right now with you. Okay, if you have water right now with you, you need to conserve this water. You need to protect this water which to be used in the future. So therefore, other than collecting water, it's very important to minimize the wastage. So the next one would be minimizing wastage of water. Right? Minimizing wastage of water. Then number 3. Using economical ways. Right? Using economical ways when adding water to agricultural lands. So the next thing is we need to minimize the wastage of water. That is okay. Then the next thing is, if there are certain agricultural lands, my dear children, you know that we are going to put water for these agricultural lands. So when adding water to agricultural lands, we need to use economical ways, right? We need to use economical ways. I mean, we need to protect this water now. So we have to use economical ways in order to protect water. So when adding or when adding water to agricultural lands, we need to use economical ways. Okay. So using economical ways when adding water to agricultural lands. So there are other steps as well. However, you have been asked to write down only 3 now. So these are some 3 measures that can be taken to face drought conditions that may occur in near future. Okay. Right then. So let's head on to see the next question. From time to time, people of many countries have to face natural disasters like floods and landslides. One aspect of disaster management is to minimize the damages caused by such disasters. State 2 natural disasters that affect Sri Lanka other than those mentioned above. So here within this question, from time to time, people of many countries have to face natural disasters like floods and landslides. One aspect of disaster management is to minimize the damages caused by such disasters. So, here my dear children, the 2 main natural disasters given are floods and landslides. So, you have to mention 2 other natural disasters other than these 2. Other than these 2, you have to mention another 2 natural disasters. But however, those natural disasters should be available in Sri Lanka also. So we can write, other than floods and landslides, droughts. Droughts. Then tsunami. Then lightning. Right, lightning. Then cyclones are also correct. So they are asking to write down only 2, but here I have mentioned 3. Right. Then the next one. What is the main reason for occurring floods? What is the main reason for occurring floods? So the main reason for the occurrence of flood is, my dear children, right? Because of the heavy rains, right? Because of the heavy rains. Put up. Right. So the main reason of occurring floods is, my dear children, because of having heavy rainfall within short time period, right? Because of having heavy rainfall within short time period. So if a certain area receives plenty of rainfall within short time period, definitely there is a risk of getting flood. Okay, so we can write down the answer. Getting heavy rainfall within short time period. Right? If a certain area receives heavy rainfall within short time period, my dear children, then that particular area is having a risk of getting floods. Okay, right then. Let's head on to the next question. State 2 reasons for the occurrence of floods other than the one you mentioned above. So, other than the one which I have mentioned earlier, I have to mention 2 other reasons for the occurrence of flood. So, we'll write down like this. You know that irregular land constructions, irregular land fillings, irregular house constructions are going to create floods. Then blockage of drains and drainage systems. These things are also going to create floods. Okay. So there are several cases in creation of floods, my dear children, in causing floods other than the ones which I have mentioned earlier. So we'll write down 2 of these. They are asking to write down 2, right? Yes, 2 reasons. So we can write down like this. Number 1, blocking drains. Blocking drains. Then irregular constructions. Right? Irregular constructions and blocking drains. So these are also reasons in creation of floods. Then the next one, write 4 essential items that should be included in a disaster kit prepared to face floods. Now when you take a disaster kit, we should have to include several items to a disaster kit. Now, this disaster kit is prepared in order to face a certain disaster, a natural disaster. Now, we need to carry this disaster kit from one place to another place. So, what are the most important things that you need to carry with your disaster kit? Okay, now if you need to travel for a longer distance, then my dear children, you might starve, you might get thirsty, right? So some dry foods like biscuits, and definitely there should be a bottle of water, right? So we can write down dry food, dry foods, then a bottle of water, bottle of water. Then my dear children, now let's say you may need to travel during night time period, right? So in that case, sometimes you won't be able to get enough light to travel here and there. Sometimes you may need to travel through several darker paths. So in that case, my dear children, it's very important to have a torch with you, right? So a torch would be pretty much important, as there can be certain instances where you may need to travel during the nighttime periods. So you won't be able to travel within the nighttime period if you don't have a good light. Okay, if you don't have good amount of light, then you won't be able to travel within the nighttime period. We can't assure with the we can't assure with the street lights, my dear children, because now during flood season there can be leakage of electricity. So in that case, there can be certain blackouts. Okay, for the region or for the area that has flood, there can be blackouts. So we can't rely on street lamps. So it's better to keep a torch with you within the disaster kit. So a torch. Right? Then my dear children, to listen for the authorities, to listen for the information given by the authorities or by the government, you should have to get a radio, a battery powered radio, right? By that way we can listen to the information given out by the authorities or by the government. Okay, so battery powered radio. Or else a mobile phone. Right? Or else a mobile phone. Mobile phone would be great. If you don't have a battery powered radio, then you can use a mobile phone as well, because you know that nowadays we use social media to get certain news. Okay, so rather than using a radio, you can use a mobile phone. So by that way you can get this information quite fast when you are using social media or any other news platforms, right? So these are several things that you need to include in a disaster management kit. Dry foods like biscuits, a bottle of water, then a torch, then a battery powered radio, or else a mobile phone, right? Right then, Name 2 communicable diseases that can spread after floods. Right? After flooding, right? After flooding, my dear children, what are? You need to write down 2 main, okay, 2 main diseases. So, one disease is diarrhea. Most of the times, the diseases which are getting spread in these cases, my dear children, would be, like the diseases which are going to spread mainly are related with the digestive tract or digestive system in our body, because here we are using mainly contaminated water. As we have to live in contaminated water, right, upon the floods, the main diseases that can spread are related to digestive system. Okay, so diarrhea, cholera, dysentery, these are several diseases that is going to cause because of the flood. Okay, so these diseases are going to spread mainly after a flood. Okay, so we can write down the answers like this. Spelling. So we can write down the answers, my dear children. Number 1, diarrhea. Number 2, dysentery. Diarrhea and dysentery, and also cholera, right? That is also okay. But however, they are being asked to write down only 2. So I have mentioned 2 diseases. Next one, what is landslide? So you know that slipping down of soil layer in slopy areas, right? Slipping down of soil layers in slopy areas can be considered as a landslide. Okay, so we can write down the answer. Slipping down of soil layers in slopy, we can write in highlands. In highlands. So, slipping down of soil layers in highlands can be simply considered as a landslide. Okay. So, in highlands, my dear children, what will happen? Soil layers will slip down because of the gravitational force and the high amount of potential energy bear by the highlands. Okay. So, these two coming together in creation of a landslide. So, landslide is mainly occurring because of slipping down of soil layers. Okay. Right. Write 2 human activities that affect landslides. So, you need to write down 2 human activities that affects the landslides. 2 human activities. Number 1, irregular, right? Irregular constructions. Right? Then, number 2, irregular land fillings. So, irregular constructions and, my dear children, irregular land fillings are going to cause these things are going to cause landslides, and these are human activities. Okay, human activities. Next one, mention 3 pre-signs or foreruns seen in associated environment before a landslide. So you have to write down 3. Okay, you have to write down 3 pre-signs associated in an environment before a landslide. Okay, so number 1, appearing new springs. Appearing new springs, comma, waterways. Next one, appearing cracks. On ground. Appearing cracks on ground. Then number 3, abnormal behavior. Abnormal behavior in animals. Right? So these are the pre-signs that we can observe within an environment before a landslide, my dear children. Other than that, there are several other cases as well, right? Sometimes, when you take tree or plants, the top part of the tree or the plant may die, right? Sometimes these trees will slant. Okay, then sometimes water which is going to disappear from a certain place, and once again it will reappear from another different place. So like that, there are several other cases as well. However, they have been mentioned to write down only 3. No. So here, appear in new springs or waterways, right? Then appear in cracks on the ground, right? Appear in cracks on ground. Then abnormal behavior in animals, right? Abnormal behavior in animals also can be observed, right? So these are the pre-signs that we can see before a landslide. Next one, what is known as a lightning? So what is known as lightning? Lightning is very simple, my dear children. It is the discharge of electrical charges from a cloud to our earth, right? Or simply we can say that, as there are several types, simply we can say that discharge of electrical charges. Okay, discharge of electrical charges can be considered as a lightning, right? So it is a So discharge of static electrical charges collected on clouds. So this is what do you mean by a lightning, right? Discharge of static electrical charges collected on clouds, right? This is what do you mean by lightning. So lightning is mainly going to occur because of the discharge of static electrical charges. Okay. Then the next one. How are the clouds charged to occur a lightning? How are the clouds charged to occur a lightning? So they are getting charged because of rubbing ice crystals and water droplets upon heavy winds. Okay, that's the main reason. They are getting rubbed each other, right? They are getting rubbed each other because of the heavy winds. Okay, so winds will rub ice crystals, right? Winds will rub ice crystals, comma, water droplets. In clouds. Winds will rub ice crystals, comma, water droplets in clouds to create static electrical charges. Right? So winds will rub ice crystals, comma, water droplets in clouds to create static electrical charges. Okay, so these static electrical charges are getting generated within the clouds because of the wind, and winds are going to rub these ice crystals and water droplets contained within the clouds. Okay, right then. The next question. What are the three types of discharging that happen in the charged clouds? So there are three types of discharges, my dear children. Number one, discharges from one cloud to another. Okay, cloud to cloud discharge. Number one. Right? Cloud to cloud discharge. This is number one. From one particular cloud to another particular cloud, these static electrical charges may discharge. Then number two, cloud to air. Right? Cloud to air discharge. Cloud to air discharge. That means from a certain cloud to our atmosphere, these charges may discharge. Okay. Then the third and the final one. This is the one which is fatal for the people. Right. So the third one is cloud to earth discharge. Right? Cloud to earth discharge. This is the fatal one for the people who are living in earth, right? Or in our environment. Because cloud to cloud discharge is not going to be a problem Cloud to air discharge is also not going to be a problem. But however, cloud to earth discharge, my dear children, this is the most hazardous condition of lightning. In that case, my dear children, there can be serve cases and serve incidents for the people who are living in the earth. Okay. Right then, what type of lightning you mentioned above is harmful to lives and property? So like I said, my dear children, in the earlier case, cloud to earth discharge is the one which is harmful for lives and property, because those charges are now coming straight towards the ground. Okay, so we can write cloud to earth discharge, right? Cloud to earth discharge is the one which is harmful for lives and property. Next one. In which month that the lightning hazards are maximum in Sri Lanka? Very simple, my dear children. April. So you could remember when we are discussing about the lightning process, we discussed that during the convectional rains or during the intermonsoonal rains, the lightning hazard or the effect of lightning hazard is going to increase. Okay, the probability of getting lightning hazard is going to increase during the April time period or during the April month because of the convectional rains or the intermonsoonal rains. Next one. Mention 3 things that should not be done during lightning. That should not be done during lightning. So, first and foremost thing, you should not be at an open place. Okay? You should not be at an open place. And you should not play with water. Right? You should not be touching any wet things. Then, you should refrain from using electrical appliances. Okay? And there are other several things. So, you have been asked to write down only 3, no? So, we'll write down these 3. Number 1. Using electrical appliances. Right? So, they are asking mention 3 things that should not be done. Huh? So, using electrical appliances should not be done during lightning. Next one. Swimming, or we can say that bathing. Bathing in water. Bathing in water. Then playing in open areas. For example, playgrounds. Right? Playgrounds. So, we should never do these things during lightning, my dear children. What are the things? Using electrical appliances. My God, it's not to do, right? We should not do these things at all. Okay? So, if you use electrical appliances during lightning time period, my dear children, then you are risking your life. Okay? Then the next one. Bathing in water. I told you that water is a good conductor of electricity. Rainwater is good conductor of electricity. So the water that we are using in our day-to-day life, my dear children, this water is referred as mineral water. So there are different substances, especially minerals and salts, which are getting dissolved within this water. So mineral water is a good conductor of electricity. However, normal water means, in the sense here, distilled water. Distilled water means if there is only water contained within a certain sample, that water is not going to conduct electricity. So you will be learning about this distilled water and mineral water in detail within our grade 9 syllabus, right? Just for now, you remember, distilled water means without any other substance, right? Purest water which we can take. Mineral water means when different salts and other chemicals are going to dissolve within water. For an example, if you take spring water, tap water, this water contains several minerals. So it is mineral water. Mineral water containing several metals and other salts, it can conduct electricity. Okay, right. So bathing in water should not be done during lightning, because that water can cause, or that water can act as a conductor. Okay. Then the next one, playing in open areas. So we discussed that when you are in open areas, there's a high risk of getting lightning, right? So definitely we should move to closed areas, or to a house or to a vehicle, in order to be protected from lightning. So you should never at an open place like in playgrounds when there is lightning. Right. State 3 protective measures that should be followed during a lightning weather condition. Now, during a lightning weather condition, you need to write down, or you need to state 3 protective measures that should be followed. So 3 protective measures that should be followed during a lightning weather condition. Number 1, removing all plugs and electrical appliances connected to sockets, right? Removing plugs of electrical appliances connected to sockets, right? So removing plugs of electrical appliances connected to sockets. If you have certain electrical appliances connected with plug sockets, my dear children, it's very important to remove those plugs. You have to remove the plug itself. Don't just turn off the switch, but you have to remove the plug as well. Okay. Next one. Number 2. Removing antenna plug from television and keeping it outside the house. So removing antenna plug from television and keeping it outside the house. Very important thing to do, right, during a lightning weather condition. Then number three, being inside the house. Being inside the house, right? So you should not be outside, you should be inside the house. This is very important, my dear children, because if you go outside, then you are in an open area. In an open area, there is a high risk of getting lightning. So we should be definitely inside our house when there is lightning. So being inside the house is also a protective measure that we need to follow during lightning weather condition. So removing plugs of electrical appliances connected to sockets, very important. Then removing antenna plug from television and keeping it outside the house, that is also very much important thing to do. Then always you guys should be at your house or inside your house, okay, in order to get protect from lightning hazards. Right then, so we have discussed all the questions regarding to the textbook questions, my dear children. So within our next chapter, we'll be discussing several other questions, but however, we'll be discussing extra questions other than the textbook. We'll be discussing several extra questions related to the lesson part. Okay. So, however, we'll be doing those questions within our next chapter.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.